everybody. Welcome back to the Big Garden Empire Footy Frothies. We're out at Henson Park today for the final day of laps with Trady. As most of our viewers are already aware, we were out here probably in week 4, when I believe Trady done about his 200th lap at the time. And that was like months ago now. But here I am today. I'm joined with Oli and Mike McGee. How are you today, Mike?
Yeah, good. Good morning, guys.
How are you today? Good, mate?
Yeah, good. Looking forward to seeing Mr. Trad complete the season.
Mate, it's pretty good what he's done for the Jets.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been something we can still feel part of the Jets. Come down to Henson Park and see him riding around has been an inspiration.
That's awesome. And how are you today, Oli?
Mate, I am fantastic. Of course, I've been on Footy and Frothies the past few weeks, and I watched when you and the other Trev came out last time, watched it on YouTube. I loved it. I was so keen to come out here today, and it's been awesome so far.
Yeah, no, it is great out here. So for our viewers, we all know I'm good Trev. Bad Trev couldn't make it today because he had a few things to do. But you know what? We'll still have a great time. But at the moment, Mike, as you can see, guys, in front of us, we've got the book here in front of us. It's actually written by Mike McGee. Mike, you want to just tell us a little bit about your book, please, mate?
Yeah, sure. I've been photographer for the Jets for about 10 years, and at the end of every season, I put out a photography book that tries to tell the story of the Jets' season, and some of the images we've captured throughout the year. So the book we've got here, Champions, the class of 2019, is from last season and obviously finished in a wave of glory. So it's 110 action-packed pages with showing shots of the players, some of the guys behind the scenes, and some of those memorable triumphant moments from the two finals.
Oh, that's awesome. The two finals were awesome. Let's take away the two finals because we know how they both ended. But throughout the year, do you have your own magic moment that you like besides those two tries in each of the finals?
I think one that sticks out for me was after the victory in the preliminary final at Cogra. And I know I remember the guys won, and Will Kennedy came off and he had his nose busted up, and there was the usual loyal supporters in the crowd there. I can't remember the final score, but it was pretty close. And then the coach, Maddo, got all the players together and walked over towards the fans and started applauding back to the fans. Which really captured what the spirit of the club is all about.
Yeah, 2019 would nearly have to be the Jets' best season, at least in recent memory, of course. But do you share that sentiment? How do you view the 2019 season?
Yeah, look, I didn't think they could beat the 2012 season. Just in terms of sheer excitement and continual epic contests where we seem to manage to claw a win out. But 2019, I think does go one better. Obviously in 2012, we didn't have the state championship final to follow it up. But, to play at Bankwest Stadium and then ANZ the following week, it's as good as it gets. I know we lost, I think, the first five out of the first 7 games, and everyone had written the guys off. But, all the loyal Jets supporters know you never write the Jets off. So then we got on a roll, and it just gathered momentum. And I think that, the defining moments of those finals were the 2 kicks by Billy the Boot Magoulias. It just encapsulates it all. But other than that, there was an awful lot of hard work and some really amazing football played.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Mate, obviously you love the Jets or you wouldn't have done the book, and you're down here today. But how long have you been supporting the Jets for?
Since I moved to Marrickville in 2009, and I was actually doing a photography course. And at the time, I walked out into my balcony, I could hear this noise, this sort of ruckus and this commentary, and I didn't know what that was. So I grabbed my camera and I walked out the front door and followed the noise, and then ended up at the Charlie Meter gates there.
Yep.
And walked through the gates, and I thought, I had no idea there was a footy ground here, and then there was the Newtown Jets, and I'd heard the legend of the Newtown Jets, but I didn't think they played in Marrickville.
Yeah.
And then I walked into the ground and started taking a few photos, and met some of the old timers in the crowd that used to play for the Camperdown Dragons, and they bought me a beer and sat me down. And one of the first guys who I really got to know was Johnny Trad, who kind of reached out, and gradually over the years I've become more and more involved.
That's amazing. And that just shows the spirit and of the Jet supporters. I've been here plenty of times myself over the years, with opposition teams or even with the league itself, and it's a great atmosphere. So, mate, the big festival that's held here, the Beer Footy Mates Festival. Have you attended that?
I have. It's amazing. Unfortunately, I missed it last year because I was overseas.
Yep.
Remember those days when you could go overseas?
Yeah.
Which was unfortunate. But the previous 2 years were just amazing, and the way it's built, it's really a feature of the calendar.
No, definitely. And what's your best moment of those festivals when they're down here?
One highlight that sticks out for me was when Trady did a lap, and he had the Indigenous flag, the Aboriginal flag, and he sweeped round, and there's queues of people queuing up for food and beer, and he had a whole lot of kids behind him, and he came swooping down, and you could see people looking, and there was a bit of awareness triggering that there's something pretty special happening down here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. Just having a quick look at the photo here on the back of the book, the team photo taken after the 2019 New South Wales Cup Grand Final. A lot of the players in this photo are pretty much NRL first grade players for the Cronulla Sharks now. What has it been like watching these guys this year as they play for the Sharks? Have you watched many Sharks games and seen these guys sort of develop and come through? I
have. I've really enjoyed it. I haven't got out to any games live, but I've watched most of them, and it hasn't surprised me. It's exciting to watch, and some of the combinations that they're playing for the Sharks, you could see them developing from the Jets, and I think next year is going to be even better as they keep going. And I think one of the when they lost the Panthers. This year lost to Canberra.
Lost to Canberra.
Yeah.
And they were on fire. That first half, they were magnificent. And I think when Blake Brayley got injured, it kind of went south from there. But knowing a lot of the guys personally, they're a really amazing bunch of guys, bunch of characters, and I know they all really appreciate what Newtown was able to offer them, and they had such a great coach in Maddo that I think it's made John Morris's job a lot easier.
It would. Maddo's a veteran of this level of rugby league when it comes to coaching. You were saying the players are characters. Which one's the biggest character or biggest pest out of them that you've come across?
Probably Tyrone Phillips.
Yep.
And that lot. He's a real character. You got to watch your back, otherwise he'll he might pin something to it. Toby Rudolph is he's a big character, attracts a lot of attention with that big smile of his. The rest are, they're really nice, down-to-earth guys.
Yeah.
Blake Brayley's amazing. I've never seen anyone play a game of sport and he looks the same when he started to when he finishes. I have no idea how he keeps his hair in place.
Out of the Newtown players that have gone on to play for Cronulla this year, who's made the best transition, in your opinion? Who's had the best season for Cronulla?
Well, that's hard to say. Probably, I think Sifa Talakai. I think people were, Toby Rudolph has, but I think people were kind of expecting that. I think Sifa is the one who's surprised the most people. I remember last year watching his first couple of games, and I thought, this guy's got real potential, but he's a bit loose in the carry, and he's still got a lot to learn. But wow, halfway through the season, you could just see. And in that grand final, when he hit Tim Manor, and you could see Manor's face went, wow, I haven't been hit that hard before.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
Mate, as you said, you've been going for the Jets now since 2009. Over those years, who's some of the past players that you admired in the Jets jersey?
Daniel Mortimer comes to mind straight away. Really nice guy, an absolutely fantastic player, and always very approachable, very very proud of representing Newtown. Kurt Kara is another one, really, really solid team man over the years. Mossy Masoi from 2012, big heads up to him and the difficulty he's been through over in the UK, but it's hard to find a bigger player than him. And a lot of unsung heroes throughout those times. There's too many others to mention.
Yeah, no, that's all right, mate. And mate, just a final question. Well, not really a final question. We ask everyone who comes on this, what's the magic number?
42. No, as Anthony Albanese said in Parliament, 8,972.
Yeah, that's right. It's the magic number. So again, for our viewers, that number is for the record crowd here at Henson Park for a Jets game, and that number is always going to be in history. Even if it does get beaten, and I believe it has been beaten, has it?
I think it was last year.
Yeah, for the Beer Footy Mates Festival.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's right. But and today, guys, that's not important. That number is always going to be here at the Jets. With the book, though, mate, where can people get your book from?
So it's still at the publishers. It's a very limited edition collector's item, limited run. Will be on sale by the end of November. You can pre-buy it online through my website, which is www.ybsphotos.com. And that link is also on the Newtown Jet supporter page. And then we're looking to have an album launch at the Henson Hotel. Obviously with the COVID thing, it's been pretty hard to book a date and to know what's happening. But we're hoping to have that on a Thursday night before Christmas, and hopefully we'll have some guys from training. Hopefully we'll be in training, ready for next season before the end of the year. But yeah, that's to be confirmed.
Mate, we might have to make a trip out for the launch.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Because like myself, and I know Ollie here and plenty of our viewers out there, we love collecting the books, we love the history, and for everyone who got to see the Newtown Jets ride through last season, this is a must-have book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the sort of thing you can look back in 10 years and you can just flick through the book. With stuff that's online or even video, it can be hard to find. But if you've got this in your bookshelf, you can flick through it. You can see all these guys, and as you said, with the guys playing for the Sharks, and 5-10 years time, these guys they're going to be legends of the game. So to see where they started is a good thing to have.
No, that's awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, Mike, and we'll catch up for sure, definitely, mate. But thanks again, guys. But like we said, guys, if you want to get in the book, go to www.ybsphotos.com. Limited edition book. Do a pre-order on the website, and the launch will happen later on down the track. And like Mike said, hopefully in November. But we'll get back out there and let's see where Traddy's at with his laps. How's that sound, boys?
Sounds good.
Wonderful.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome back, guys. This time we're with Stephen Russo. Stephen, can you just let our viewers know what's your role with Newtown and what are you all about?
Oh, okay. Well, basically, I'm the social media manager at Newtown, so every kind of social post generally comes from me. I'm in charge of just making sure that we're putting the pictures up, the tweets, every kind of article I promote, write a couple of articles here and there for the club. So, yeah, basically a bit of a social media guru for the club. Been doing that since the start of this year, but I've been a volunteer at the club on and off for a while. In terms of who I am, I guess I'm a former league journalist, used to work for the old Rugby League Week magazine.
Yep.
But since then, just done a few other bits and pieces. But I guess recently a few people have seen me. I was on The Fan doing some stuff about like art. I produce a lot of rugby league art. That's kind of my thing at the moment, especially when I lost my full-time job due to COVID. So, yeah, I have a lot of free time on my hands, so I just focus mainly on art.
Mate, and with at the moment, you've got a picture of Trady doing laps with Traddy.
Yeah, exactly. So, obviously, being involved with the club, well aware of John. In fact, I wrote an article about John years ago for Rugby League Week. But yeah, when Jace Pritchard, who's obviously very heavily involved in this, came up and said, look, we'd love some artwork to do laps of Trady. I'm like, it sounds like a great idea. I'd really like to help and jump on board and help the club and help with everything that's going on and help keep the Jets flying. So I couldn't say yes fast enough. So this is the kind of result right here.
Now, obviously, other than the Trady caricature, what's your favourite artwork, rugby league artwork that you've constructed?
That's a good question. I guess probably being a Balmain fan or a West Tigers fan, my favourite artwork was probably a piece that I did of all the old Balmain jerseys in the history of the game. I recently had a friend commission me to do every jersey from both the ARL and Super League competitions in 1997. That was pretty cool. So those would probably be the top two, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Mate, and as you said, you've volunteered with the club before coming on board as the social media manager. Mate, how long have you actually been with the club?
No, that's a good question. I mean, I left overseas from late 2016 to late 2018, so I wasn't really involved for those years because I was in another country. But like, I've been on and on it, been involved with the club on and off probably since early 2016 when I left Rugby League Week at the start of 2015. So, yeah, when I was doing some other part-time work before moving overseas, I was helping out the club. I have a few friends who have been involved with the club for a long time, so I just basically came out and said I'd like to get involved and just help out where I can.
That's awesome, mate. Must have been a great experience with the old Rugby League Week magazine.
Yeah, it was. It was definitely. It wasn't an easy experience. Being a rugby league journalist isn't all sunshine and lollipops.
No, that's right.
No, so it was a hard experience, but it was a very good grounding point. I learned a lot more working at League Week than I did at uni. Let me tell you that. Just the amount of things on the job, and I had a very good couple of editors and sub-editors who were really helpful. So yeah, definitely a great experience.
Like who were some of the main writers that you got to work with?
I never really worked with any of kind of like the legendary writers or anything like that. But, my editor was a bloke called Mitch Dale. He was a really good bloke. And one of the unsung heroes of rugby league media, a bloke called Phil Mitchell, who's at the Sydney Morning Herald now. He was a sub-editor and he was very much a guide and a kind of mentor to me. So he was a really good bloke and I think one of the most underrated people in rugby league media.
Yeah, I can sort of relate to you in the sense that I'm currently studying journalism at university and I do freelance work for a rugby league website. And for me, it's been like uni, you learn the basics in a way of journalism, but then you learn, I guess, the real stuff when you're actually in the job. Is that how you would sort of describe it as well?
Yeah, of course. I mean, at uni, you kind of learn the theory and you kind of learn how to interview people and your assignments are usually news stories which are relevant, but like you usually like doing one or two main stories at the back end of a semester. When you're working at a magazine or a newspaper, you're basically doing your final uni assignment every week or in some cases every day. So yeah, it's a big shock to the system when you first get involved and there's a lot of ropes to learn. But yeah, if you've got someone like really good mentors, you'll learn quickly and you'll learn well.
Awesome. Mate, just what's some of the most memorable articles that you might have written for Rugby League Week?
Oh, yeah. I used to really love talking to the old players. I'm really into rugby league history, so I used to do the old legend Q&A section a lot. And I used to love doing those. Some of the best guys, I think the two best interviews I did with in terms of the Legends Q&A were former Melbourne Storm prop back rower Ben Rorty. He was a really good bloke. And former Canterbury and Balmain winger Steve O'Brien was another really good guy. They both had amazing stories to tell and were very welcoming, very interested. And I think a lot of the secret to doing stuff like that is to do a lot of research, because if people realise that you've found out a lot about them and you're genuinely interested in their story, they're usually quite receptive. So, yeah, a big part of journalism from my perspective as well is research. Research goes a long way prior to writing a story as well.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Mate, over the time, now I'm going to come back to Newtown. What's your memorable moment besides last year?
Yeah, well, I guess 2012 was pretty memorable. I was there working for the Canberra Raiders, covering the National Youth Cup, the NYC Toyota Cup Grand Final that came after it. But obviously I was a Balmain fan, so it was kind of sad to see Balmain go down. But at the same time, I've always had a really kind of soft spot for Newtown. So if anyone could beat Balmain, I was happy it would be Newtown. And yeah, that was just memorable, just mainly because Nafi Seluini's right behind you.
He's right behind us.
Yeah, his game-winning try was pretty big moment in the context of the game, obviously.
Yeah, no, and this looks like it was taken out at Leichhardt. The photo behind us with Daniel Mortimer, is it?
I think that's from the North Sydney game where he kicked the penalty goal.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
he kicked the penalty goal in extra time to win. So, yeah, very familiar picture.
No, definitely. And it just shows, like, the history, you know. Like, doesn't matter what time players come through the club, mate, once they're part of history.
Yeah, exactly.
They can come back, even if they just spent the 1 year here. Doesn't matter how many games they've played, come back and they're welcome.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Newtown, obviously, that because it's a kind of obviously small club with a really big kind of community following, players can kind of, and obviously the way Henson Park is, you're very close to the players, and the club does a really good job of fostering the relationship between the players and the spectators and the fans. And I think that's why when players come back here for like reunions or some kind of, or just sitting in the crowd, they're greeted really warmly, because the club and the players themselves, even ones that have been dropped from first grade, always come back and really embrace the culture of the club. And I think that's the reason why guys who come back here having played for Newtown are so revered.
You said you worked for Canberra a number of years ago, 2012. What was that experience like at the Raiders?
Oh, that was amazing, actually. It was a 2-year internship during my university days, and my boss is my old boss is the current media manager there, Men Pollock. He's a really good bloke, and the experience was just, the first year I was just mainly covering NYC, so I'd do their match reports, I'd go to their games, I'd do a feature on one of the players once a week, do a match preview. And then the next season I was doing that as well as doing the first grade match reports as well. And once again, that was another really valuable thing I picked up, because you kind of had to go into press boxes and you had to meet a lot of the journos and kind of find out what goes into the press conferences. So yes, if people who are still studying journalism like yourself, for example, I really strongly advise doing internships if you can do them. Obviously it's hard because a lot of the time they're unpaid and it's just not practical. But if you have the chance to do them and you can do them, an internship is really valuable for aspiring journalists.
Yeah, during your time at the Raiders, what's your favourite memory?
I think there was a game where they won on the bell against the Dragons. It was it was always during that time. They were always being the Dragons, and there was a time where they beat the Roosters as well. I don't think Canberra were in finals contention, and the Roosters were on their way to winning a grand final, and Canberra kind of upset them, and that was a really good memory too, because the crowd was well and truly behind the club, and it was just, it was a good time to be down there. And even if it was like -3 degrees or felt like it, Canberra Stadium is a really good venue to go to.
No, mate, I'm going to come back to Newtown now.
Yeah.
Earlier, well, not that long ago, you mentioned how players come back from first grade and they just embrace the culture here at Newtown. Which one particular NRL player comes back and they're just blown away?
Oh, that's a good question. You'd have to ask them that. I've never really had had an opportunity to speak them specifically, but I know from talking to people that a lot of players, like obviously Dan Mortimer, apparently Willie Mason was really impressed when he was, I think in 2009 he was dropped down here, and Todd Carney, I think in 2011 was really impressed with the kind of setup here and really enjoyed his time. He played an absolute blinder for the club, I think at Brookvale Oval once. So yeah, those are a few of the names I know through hearing through players that like really established first graders who have come down to him, kind of brace the club. That's the main kind of thing.
No, that's awesome, mate. And what's the future for you looking at the moment?
That's a very good question. I'm just kind of doing my own thing. I do a lot of different creative projects on myself. Obviously, I'd love to stay involved and get some kind of more paid employment in rugby league, but that's just the way it is at the moment, the economy being what it is due to COVID. I'm just kind of hanging in and doing my own thing. I make my own videos and stuff like that. So, yeah, just kind of hanging in there and hoping for the best. I'm a lot more fortunate than a lot of people in regards to I have a really good family, a really good support network. So, while it's not the greatest time at the moment, I'm not suffering or anything.
Yeah, no, that's right, mate. Thanks for coming on the podcast today. We really appreciate it. And as you can see again, guys, laps with Trady. We'll get back out there. We'll give Trady some more of our support and we'll cheer him on. How's that sound, boys?
Sounds good.
That's good. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome, mate.
Cheers. Cheers.
Guys, welcome back. We're back in the home sheds here at Henson Park. This time we're with Glenn Bumper Dwyer. How are you today, Bumper?
Very good, gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me.
No, you're welcome, mate. So let's, we were just talking before we came just on air, and you were letting us know that you got back involved involved with the Jets when they re-established in 1991. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, not strictly. I'd followed Newtown virtually all my, as a young schoolboy, I'd sort of adopted Newtown as my team, and I didn't live in Sydney at the time. I lived in southern Queensland. But Newtown was my team of choice in the Sydney competition from the early 1960s onwards. So, and then when I came to live here in the very late 1960s, and I've been here most of that time ever since, Newtown was always my number one choice in the former New South Wales Rugby League first grade competition. But when you say was I involved right from 1991, well, not strictly. I certainly was very pleased to see them come back in, and I was at their comeback game. And it was on, I forget the date in March, but it was Easter Saturday 1991. They made their comeback to rugby league at Erskineville Oval. Well, I was certainly there that afternoon, but I didn't get involved with the club until I was invited to join the board in late 1994, because I had known Terry Rowney, who's been involved with Newtown since the late 1970s, and I'd known him, all of that time. And he approached me, and the fellow who many people know as the current ground announcer at Henson Park, John Lynch. We both joined the board in late 1994, and then in 1997, because I worked I was a TAFE teacher in communications and journalism and stuff, and I'd worked trade unions before and jobs involving communications. I got invited to be the club media officer from about the beginning of 1997. That name meant a different type of role then than it does now, because while I've tried to keep pace with the massive changes of IT and so on, and of social media, I prefer to leave that to people like Jeff Gabriel and Stu McCarthy and Steve Russo. I still stick to the old-fashioned sort of, doing up I put a fair bit of stuff on the website, and I also do the Newtown the online newsletter, which gets out to quite a few people. We've got a subscription list of about 3,000 people. But that's, as I realise, that's all old-fashioned stuff compared to the modern day, Facebook and Twitter and whatever. Anyway, that's how I was a long way around of telling you, was I there in 1991? Well, I was certainly a supporter, but I didn't officially become involved with the club until the latter part of 1994.
94.
Yeah, so you said you actually started supporting the club while actually living in Queensland. Why did you choose Newtown?
Oh, there's a simple reason for that. I went to school until I was about 15 years old and then changed down to New South Wales in the Queensland system, and that was in the inland city of Toowoomba, which back in those days was actually the second largest city in Queensland. It was bigger than Cairns and Townsville, but they rapidly overtook Toowoomba from the 1970s onwards. But I went to high school in Toowoomba until I was in the end of 1967, and our family were very keen rugby league fans, and Toowoomba was a great rugby league hotbed in those days. And in the Toowoomba competition, there was a club called Newtown, because there is a suburb called Newtown in the western side of Toowoomba, and they didn't appear to have any overt sort of links with this club, other than they wore the exact same outfit. They wore the royal blue jersey, the N crest, white shorts, royal blue socks with white tops. But there was never any exchange of players, and I don't remember anyone from the Sydney Newtown going to coach at the Toowoomba Newtown, because they seemed to sort of stick to mainly, Queensland recruiting. But they were a very strong club, and they have a. It must be something to do with the Newtown name. They actually went out of business in the 2000s. Because they'd done fairly well in the Toowoomba competition, and with the arrival of poker machines in Queensland in about 1990, well, they got in on the act and developed a quite good licence club. But I think it overran itself, and there was people tickling the till and God knows what. They went broke in the early 2000s, and they were out of football for about 8 or 12 years, and now they're back. They're back in the Toowoomba first grade competition, and we've actually the two clubs have been in touch with each other, and I think they sort of see us as a sort of we wouldn't say a role model, but I think they're very pleased to know we're back in rugby league and that they've sort of followed the same path. I don't know if there's another Newtown out there in the whole world of rugby league, and if there is, I hope they don't go out of business.
There might be an Old Town.
Yes.
An old town, that's right, an old town. Hey, so I'm going to go back to the 90s now, when Newtown came back. Not long after they arrived back in, they played in the old New South Wales Rugby League Metro Cup.
That's correct, yeah.
And they actually won the competition.
They won it, and their first year back was a bit of a dud. 1991, they sort of finished nowhere. But it wasn't easy to do, I suppose. It's very hard to recreate, even at that sort of third tier level of the Metropolitan Cup, to grab a team and put a team together that's going to be immediately competitive. It isn't always easy to do. So they didn't do very well in 91, but they got their recruitment act into gear by the beginning of 1992, and the best signing they made was Freddie Teasdale, who had previously played with Manly Warringah and North Sydney. And he was the perfect guy. He was a hard-hitting forward, and a bloke who sort of very much like one of these forwards who you come with me. I'll show you the way. Yep. And he was an outstanding forward leader, and he had actually been there in 1991, but we didn't have enough good players with him. But in 92, when they picked up another very good signing, was Darryl Neville, who'd had a long career with South Sydney and then went on to have quite a long career with Newtown. But in 1992, they looked like they were going to win the competition from the get-go. I think they were minor premiers, and they certainly... the only game in which they looked a bit wobbly was the grand final itself. They ran up a big lead at half-time against Wentworthville, and then Wentworthville came back at them, and it was about 2018 with 10 minutes to go, but I think Newtown scored 2 late tries that sewed that up. But that was a very emotional night. It was out at... the grand final was played at Parramatta Stadium. There was about 7,000 people there, and most of them were Newtown supporters. pardon me, and they. The crowd was very emotional following the win, because here they were after having been, consigned to the dustbin of history between 1984 and 1990. They didn't field a team, and it looked like, I thought they were gone forever. In that period, I started to follow Souths because they were another inner city team, and I lived near in the inner city. But Newtown's return, that win in 1992. Sort of, I think it was a fantastic moment for the Newtown faithful who had stayed loyal and who were there that night, and thousands of other people who still followed Newtown scattered around New South Wales and elsewhere in Australia. It was a fantastic, sort of endorsement that they were back in rugby league, and that if they ran their affairs properly, they had some sort of a future.
How was Trevor Oli playing for Newtown back then?
He joined in 1993, as I remember. He's got a very interesting background in rugby league. He was a Queenslander. He'd been in a couple of the Brisbane Rugby League competition that existed before the Broncos.
Yep, the old BRL.
And continued on for a number of years after. And there is a competition now. I think it might be called Brisbane First Division or something. But it isn't the BRL.
No, that's right.
It's not the same clubs. Some of the old BRL clubs have actually gone out of business, as you know, like Valleys and Brothers and Western Suburbs. But no, Trevor was. I understand he played with Valleys and was in a premiership team. And in 1990, it was either 90 or 91, because he joined Newtown in late 93. He was in the shadow Queensland State of Origin team.
Yep. And
he was like a shadow man for Alan Langer. So, and Trevor said, and he has shown me, there's a photo of him in the full State of Origin kit in the squad, of about 24 guys or so,
Yep.
So that goes to show he was well regarded by the QRL people, even though he wasn't playing in the what was then the New South Wales Rugby League
first grade. That's right.
Yeah,
because most people don't remember as well that
he was actually bigger than Alan Langer. So he's
but at the same time, there was a time there he was also the backup halfback to Ricky Stewart in Canberra.
Yes, well that's right. See, after that, when he'd have been the shadow half in the State of Origin, he may very well have been at Canberra by then. I just don't have the details in front of me. But he most certainly, the Raiders recruited him, and they saw him as a man to stand in for Ricky if Ricky was ever injured, because I think Ricky was only still fairly young, and they saw him as a long-term investment or a long-term signing. But Trevor could play. He was a very, very fast halfback. In fact, it's rare to see now halfbacks who can actually, just terrorise the defence by, going clean between big forwards just with their sheer speed off the mark. And that was... Trevor wasn't... I suppose the downside to him in terms of being ever picked in first grade was he wasn't that good a defender. He'd tend to... He'd get in behind a couple of the bigger forwards and let them take all the impact. But
he was a halfback.
Yeah, he was. But, and he's had a very successful coaching career too since he left playing, in recent years. Yeah. He's been at a number of clubs where he's had quite a degree of success with junior rep teams and so on. I think he was the Cronulla SG ball coach for some seasons, and appointments like that. He knows his football.
He does. Hey, so I'm going to move forward now in more recent times. Obviously, last year was a pretty big year for the club. Everyone knows that. Winning the state and then the national title. What was your favourite memory throughout all of last season?
Well, I think even though we've had this dreadful wipeout year of 2020, people are still sort of floating on air from 2019, because it's amazing the number of people I run into and we get into conversations about something from that year. I personally believe it was one of the greatest years in the club's history, and that's taking in everything back to 1908, because... old first graders might be looking to lynch me for saying that, but the older brigade of supporters might say, "You can't be serious. You can't compare winning the Canterbury Cup and the second tier state championship to being, a first grade club, but you've got to do it in terms of where you were at the time and what resources you had available to you and what was logistically possible to do. No one's expecting Newtown to be in the NRL because we don't have large income and we don't have a licensed club, and there's all sorts of reasons why there's barriers to that. But the achievements of 2019 and the manner in which it was done, because they started very poorly. They won one of their first 7 games. Then they started to get their act together and got into the finals, but at position number 7. But the whole point is, with this second-tier rugby league, whether it's in Queensland or in New South Wales, teams going into the finals, if they suddenly get a large injection of NRL players from their partnership club coming back for the finals and who are qualified for the finals, that changes the outlook altogether. And that was our situation. We got all the guys like Scott Sorensen, and I could run through 7 or 8 names who in other years we might have been unlucky enough just for them not to quite qualify for us in the finals. But all these guys were counting back from Will Kennedy, the Sione Katoa, Aaron Gray.
There's quite a lot of
Aaron Trindle, and then into the forwards, as I said, Sorensen and
Ronaldo Mulatalo.
Yeah, well, Ronaldo had played on and off during the year, and he'd always been very effective, and so was Sione, but you never knew if they were going to be there in the finals, you know. And the other fellow who just came like a bolt out of the blue was, because I'd met him earlier in the year, and he was going through rehab then, and I thought, the poor bugger, he probably won't play until 2020. This was Toby Rudolph.
Yep.
And Toby had an interesting history because he'd come out of the South Sydney district, but in 2018 he'd actually played for Redcliffe in the Q Cup and was man of the match in that. He mightn't have been man of the match in the grand final because he was injured in the grand final and went off for extensive knee surgery, but he had been a very good forward for Redcliffe. Cronulla had signed him, and then, he turned up with his, with all this surgery and rehab to be done, but they got him ready, and he joined the Newtown Canterbury Cup team in about the 4th or 3rd last round. And he played well in those games. And once he hit the finals, he was on the, he was just an absolute machine, and he had a huge role in our success in the finals, in winning both the Canterbury Cup and the NRL State Championship.
Yeah, State Championship, that's right.
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on something you said before, actually. It's kind of cool how in 1992, up against Wentworthville, down late in the game, Newtown were able to come back and win. 2019, same story. A quick comparison between 92, I guess, and 2019, or around that era. How have the crowds changed? Yeah, would you say they've gotten bigger over the years, smaller? Have there been sort of peaks and troughs, would you say?
Well, look, certainly playing here at Henson Park and developing over a long period of time, we've worked hard at establishing ourselves here and, developing a fan base. We get week by, home game by home game, our crowds are far bigger in the Canterbury Cup than they ever were in the Metro, massively so. That 7,000 crowd in the 1992 grand final, all of the Metro Cup grand finals that Newtown played in, we drew reasonably good crowds, but they were one-offs. You'd get the people back to see you in a grand final. But what we've done here with this, where we've developed, a quite respectable fan base, and then the real peaks, as you're saying, with things like the Beer, Food and Footy Festival, where in 2019 we had, the New South Wales Police confirmed the crowd was in excess of 10,000 people. Well, that's just mind-boggling, because the old Newtown Club never drew that many people. Like the Newtown Club of the 1940s and 50s, they weren't drawing crowds of 10,000 to Henson Park because their big games would have all been at the Sydney Cricket Ground,
That's right. Oh, mate, we're just going to wrap it up because I think they actually want us back out there for laps of Trady.
That's good. It's been great to be
great talking to you,
mate.
And Bumper, mate, we'll have to get you back on, mate, because you're great to talk to.
Well, I'll tell you this. See, I know that 1991 to the present day grab of Newtown history exceptionally well because I wrote a book on it.
Oh, yeah?
I put a book out in 2019 called Taking It to the Streets, The Second Life of the Newtown Rugby League Football Club. So it's all in my mind, you know.
Definitely, mate.
I'm walking around like an information machine, you know.
Nah, that's awesome.
Where can people find that book?
It's on sale at quite a number of inner city bookshops, but primarily through the Newtown Club itself. It's on our website at www.newtownjets.com, and there's also a clothing and merchandise website, www.newtownjetsclothing.com.au. But look up the Newtown the club website or the merchandise website. It's advertised on both of those, and good reading.
Yeah, guys, awesome. Check it out.
Even if I say so myself, you know.
Well, mate, we believe you. Thanks for that, mate. Well, let's get back out there and let's cheer Trady on.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Welcome back, guys. Now I am with the star of the show, Trady, and I'm with Jace. Guys, we've just finished up. Trady, mate, you've done 800 laps. How do you feel?
Mate, I feel like a Tui's, but I've got young Henrys, mate.
Young Henrys.
Yes.
Mate, I think our viewers like that from the frothy point of view.
Yeah.
And Jace, how are you, mate?
Oh, mate, it's all good. So I'm glad it's over, but it's been a fantastic few weeks, months, and feels like years. But it's been great. The great man's done fantastic work, and we've raised some big money and kept the spirits going, which has been good. So
Yeah.
all good.
No, that's awesome. Mate, I remember when I first made contact with Trady, because myself and Bad Trev, who's not here today, we came out, I think at the time, it was only about 200 laps.
Yeah, so it's...
It would have been about 5 or 6 weeks in,
Yeah.
That's right. So it was only a few weeks in when you started, and here we are, grand final, the day before the NRL grand final, and 800 laps.
That's right, mate. 800 laps. That's 480 kilometres, mate.
You would have
Here
got
to Griffith.
You would have got to Grafton.
Griffith, mate.
Oh, yeah.
Griffith. You know Griffith,
I wonder what it
mate.
been at Griffith.
Yeah.
What's her name, mate?
I think it's Mary Jane.
Mary Jane. Trady, how did you find the whole experience?
Every week was different. Every week there was someone new, something new to talk about, and as we were going along, we saw the money coming up, climbing, and we knew it was going to come to the end, and sadly this is the end now. And I want to say I wish I can do it all again, but I don't want to see the Jets in trouble. You know what I mean? I want us to be normal again, mate.
Definitely.
Yeah, Trady, you've obviously been doing the laps for longer than this year. Obviously, every time Newtown have scored a try.
Yeah.
Would you be able to maybe estimate between how many laps you think you've done, not just the 800 this year, but overall?
Well, I've been doing it for 10 years, and we played 10 games here at Henson, and that's where I do my riding. So, and we average about 6 tries a game, and so that's 60 laps.
By 10, which is 600.
600. Thank God for Dully High. 600 laps plus the 800, 1,400. Where would that take us, Jace? Where would that take you? 1,400.
Brisbane plus, I don't know.
Mate, we're going to check it out.
We'll get the Funk and Wagnalls out and work it.
Yeah.
We'll work it out. That's right.
Yes. Yeah.
Mate, is there anyone you want to thank?
I want to thank everyone who was involved, starting from the staff, Jason Pritchard, Kim Fuller, Wayne, Rebecca, anyone else? Jason, help
Brad.
me please. Brad, yes. Deb.
Yeah.
Wayne
Wayne the Rooster Man.
You're Wayne the Rooster Man. Yeah. And obviously all the people who donated and supported us through the whole 23 weeks. It's what an experience, mate. Great experience.
There's a lot of other people to thank, boys like yourself.
Yeah.
Channel 9 came on board, did a lovely story for us. New South Wales Rugby League, we had an article in there. The list is endless, to be honest. But it's just great that you mentioned the Jets and what's happening there, and it's a feel good story, and people have been involved. And as I said, we've had such a crazy year, and people are just looking for something. I guess have been looking for something that's been a bit, digress, and something that's a bit cheerful and happy. And I think the weekly videos have, serviced that point. And it's been a great effort. And I'd like to thank Kim as well. Like Kim Fuller's been on board with us from day dot.
we've had a funny few weeks, and there's been some good times and some bad times, and there's been weeks where there's just been the three of us here, and we've just been punching away and, just trying to keep it upbeat and that type of stuff. So to see what we had out there today, and I think it's refreshing, 50 or 60 people here and they're all cheering away, and that's what it's all about, just the spirit of the place. So
yeah, definitely. I saw there was times there where you would come down like on a Thursday night or a Friday night.
Yeah, we were coinciding it with the Glebe boys training. That was great. Some of the players there, they all chipped in, and it was good to see them too, and they gave us a cheer, and they sponsored too. We got some money from Glebe Burwood Rugby League team. Sadly, they just lost in the grand final, but what can you do?
The best one, Trev, was we were down on a Friday night because we had a couple of things on the Saturday, so we did it on the Friday night, and Traddy's lost the ball bearings out of his pedal. So we're on a search down the back here for 45 minutes trying to find this screw that would go in the damn thing. So we're nut, yeah. And so we're starting to get short of time. So, the sun's going down and we get to 7 o'clock and it's pitch black, and we're just waiting for the lights to come on and nothing.
No
so
lights.
We've rigged him up with a little helmet light, and away he goes, and off he goes, and he was doing half flaps backwards and back to the end and then back because he couldn't see shit, but he just was trying to do it. We had the moonlight, we had the lights out here in the run to the tunnel, and oh God, that was
rain, hail and shine, mate.
Yeah, rain, hail and shine. It went on. The show went on. So
No, and that's good, man. I'm glad that the show still went on. Didn't matter what happened. Mate, during the whole time, you end up getting a new bike.
I sure did. Well, I've had the bike for years, but it was hidden in my garage, and while I was just cleaning out a few stuff, and I found it, and I went, oh my God, it was green. But we got Trev. Trev is the man. He restored the bike, painted it blue. We put the stickers on it. It's a great bike.
Mate, no, definitely. It looks really good, mate. Because I remember when we first came out here, as I said ages ago, bad Trev got on the old one, mate, and I remember you saying to him, just be careful, because if you stop pedalling, the pedals will come off and the wheel will come off and then you'll fall over.
Yeah, we had the medics on a standby to
That's right, we had the medics.
The spinal unit. We thought Trev would come a cropper, but we actually, so Trev, the mechanic who fixed Johnny's bike up, a shout out to him too. He did a great job on restoring both bikes and that. He was playing around here the other day and come a cropper. So there has been somebody fall off a penny farthing at Henson, but it's not the great man.
Not me, mate.
But it had to be a Trev of some sort.
A Trev of some sort. There you go. Yeah.
Mate, the good Trev, the bad Trev, and the injured Trev.
He didn't injure himself, did he?
No, luckily,
just his pride.
God. Yeah, just his
pride. No, that's good, guys. Guys, we've really appreciated that. Like, you've invited us to come out here again on grand final day for it. As we know, tomorrow is the big one in the NRL. Who's your tip?
My tip's going to be Melbourne Storm by 20.
By 20, and what about you, Jace?
I'm a Panthers man. They've been the best side all year, and I think they've just got the momentum, and I reckon they're going to win by 10, 12.
Well, I think you've had the beer and I've had the Coke.
Well, we'll see tomorrow, won't we?
We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're going to wrap it up here. Again, guys, thank you for our viewers who've listened, watch. We'll put the podcast on the Big Garden Empire. You can find it where you can listen to any good podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, and the video also will go on the YouTube channel, guys. So subscribe, hit like. Also go over to Newtown, Laps of Trady. If you still want to donate, we're still taking donations.
Sure are.
And that, so it's all for the Jets, guys. But again, thank you for your hospitality. We've appreciated it, and good luck come 2021.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
I got something for you.
Podcast.